a new series, and it is called Death to Duets. Death to Duets. How many of you guys like TikTok? How many guys wish you didn't like TikTok, but you find yourself addicted?
What about YouTube Shorts? Does that count?
Hey, I'm not gonna lie. None of this is in my notes, but hey, my poops take way longer because of TikTok. You sit down there and you start scrolling, you get the red marks on your thighs because you're bent over for so long. TikTok, and you get up and you barely walk. You haven't recorded yet, have you?
I did.
Dang it. Alright. Anyways. So, TikTok, death to duets. But listen, I want you guys to understand right from the rip. The goal of this series is not to get you guys to completely delete social media or anything like that. I just thought it was a catchy name, alright? Death to duets. Yeah, we're going to go a lot deeper than that. We're going to go a lot deeper than just saying get off social media. Alright, we're going to talk about the cultural phenomenon that is the duet, which is what made TikTok blow up. But what I want to talk about tonight is conflict. Is conflict between who you really are and who you appear to be. Who you really are and who you appear to be. Can you guys deal with this? Oh, just me. Alright, cool. Alright, cool. Alright, I'll just go upstairs then. No. I'm going to talk to you guys tonight about the difference between who you really are and who you appear to be. So the you that you guys know, the you that you are in your quiet time, in your alone time, when nobody's watching, versus who you appear to be. And hopefully by the end of the series we've gotten to a point to where you guys can let go of who you're supposed to be, or who you think you're supposed to be, or who maybe your friends or your family thinks you're supposed to be, and so you can embrace who you really are and who God created you to be. So we're reading out of Genesis. I want to say Genesis. Genesis chapter 32, first book of the Bible, verses 22 through 29. It says, "That night Jacob got up and took his 2 wives." We'll talk about that another time. His 2 female servants, also another time. Yeah, man, I love this youth. And his 11 sons,
Oh my!
and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. Say Jabbok. After he had sent them across the stream, he sent over all his possessions. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask me my name?" Then he blessed him there. How many of you guys have ever gotten a text from an unknown number? Alright, it's like no name, no nothing, it's just a random text. Alright, maybe you get a random phone call, it happens to me all the time. How many of you guys have ever said, "Hey, new phone, who dis?" How many of you guys have ever actually said that? I know that's a joke, but how many of you guys have ever actually said that? Savannah, okay, thank you for being real with me. I can't get any real people in here. Come on, there we go. Thank you. Alright. Yeah, so I was on the phone with one of my boys from college. All right, he lives in Florida now. I was on the phone with him earlier this week, and I was just talking to him about what I was going to speak on this week. And I asked him, like, have you ever like said like, "Hey, new phone, do this to anybody?" And he was like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, you do it like whenever you don't have someone's contact saved. He's like, "Well, yeah, like I do it with that too." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Oh, no. He's like, I get people that reach out to me from college that I haven't talked to in a long time, and I don't really feel like continuing that relationship anymore." So I'm like, "Hey, new phone, who this?" He knew exactly what it was. There's a reason why he didn't want to talk to him about it. How many of you guys have ever done that before? Where someone texts you, and you haven't talked to them in a long time, and you're just going to pretend like you didn't see it. Cam? Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, Savannah, yeah? Okay. Alright, hey, I'm not gonna lie. I have read receipts off on my phone for a reason. Alright? Sometimes I just don't want to. But, yeah, so there's times where we've done that. But I want to give you guys a little bit of context here in these 7 verses before we start diving into it, all right? So we're going to walk through Jacob's life in this series. But before we do that, there's a couple key points you guys need to understand, all right? These are very important. These are going to help you understand this story much better, all right? It's going to be very beneficial for you guys, but we're not going to move on until we understand these, all right? So Jacob is wrestling with God in this story, all right? Pretty much every theologian says that the man that he's wrestling with, the Greek translation of it is an angel of the Lord, and angel of the Lord in the Old Testament almost always refers to a pre-incarnate Jesus. All right, I just want to look deep on you guys. So this was Jesus before he was Jesus, because you guys didn't know Jesus existed before he was born in a manger with Mary, right? Jesus always existed. So this was a pre-incarnate version of Jesus that Jacob's wrestling with. That's hard, right? That's tough. This man's literally wrestling with God. But you guys got to understand this. This was not the first time that Jacob had wrestled in his life. All right? How many of you guys got siblings? Specifically brothers.
6 of them.
All right. How many of you guys know about sibling rivalries?
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. All right. So it's not just me. It's not just me. So you guys can actually relate to me on some of this stuff. All right. Yeah. Sibling rivalries. All right. But listen. Jacob had been wrestling with his brother Esau. Say Esau. Esau. He'd been wrestling with his brother Esau his entire life. All right. His entire life. It even says in the Bible that they were wrestling in the womb, all right? They were in their mama's tummy and they were wrestling in the womb, all right? These boys are crazy, all right? It's like Conor McGregor and Habib wrestling in the womb together, all right? And it even says when they gave birth, when their mom gave birth, it says that Esau, his twin brother, was the first one out, and it says Jacob came out of the mom, grabbing on to Esau's heel. And the name Jacob literally means heel grabber. So this guy, imagine being named heel grabber. Alright, Abby, your name's not Abby anymore, it's heel grabber. Alright, imagine everyone calling you that, your name. Alright, you didn't get to choose that name, you're getting called that name based off something you weren't even conscious that you were doing. He was already labeled something beforehand. Alright, and now reading that, it's kind of just like a big setup, right? It's like, all right, they were wrestling in the womb. Jacob came out grabbing his brother's heel, already trying to get ahead. You can just see like the writing on the wall. It's like, all right, something about to go down. All right, you can see, and honestly, when I was studying this, I thought it was super interesting because I feel like in our culture we have like a very much so like a me first mentality, right? A me first mentality. Like I gotta put myself at the center. You do you. I'm gonna do me. Like leave me alone. I'm gonna do me. All right. We got a me first mentality. And this is something that as you get older, you really start to see. It's something that's ingrained in us from a very young age, right? You don't need to teach a toddler to say mine, right? Like they just know how to do it from the very get-go. And they become very competitive and they want to be first. All right. My younger brother Oliver. That boy, dude, he's like this. He wants to be first in everything. He is so competitive, and gosh darn it, he is better than me at almost everything. He's only 16. Listen, he's always saying stuff like, hey, like, I'm going to be stronger than you. Not yet, but he probably will be. He's like, hey, I'm already taller than you. I'm going to make more money than you. I'm already better than you at video games. I'm better than you at this or that. I'm like, all right, boy, try me. Come get some. All right, I'm going to lay you out. No, I'm kidding. Actually, no, I did say that even last night. Like, no, I'm going to thrash you, boy. But listen, when we grow up, and it's like this innate thing that's inside of us, this me-first mentality, right? This me-first mentality, we can see that Jacob in this story, he's grabbed his brother's heel, Esau. He wanted to be first. And I know you're probably like, oh, bro, like he's just like a little baby. He doesn't know what he's doing. All right, just work with him here. So let me ask you guys a question, all right? How do we put God first in a me-first culture? How do we begin to do that? How do we put God first in a me-first culture? How is it possible? Or is it even possible? Well, we see in Matthew chapter 19, verse 30, it says, but many who are first will be last, and many who are last will be first. So Jacob's in a tough spot right here. All right, he wants to be first, and we're going to see that it's not just something that he experienced when he was a baby. All right, it continues through his whole life. But listen, guys, if we spend our life grabbing heels, all right, hey Cole, the clue. Come on here, I'm going to use you for an illustration. All right. Listen, if we live our whole lives, don't fall over. It's an illustration. If we live our whole lives going like, hey, like me first. Hey, not the way. I want to be better than you. I want to be better than you. We live our whole lives like this. And Cole is a big and strong man. All right, look at his legs. He does squats. All right, it's exhausting. All right, because he's got tree trunks in his heart. All right, if we live our life like that, or here, come back over here. Try not to move this time. I'm gonna illustrate this hard. If we're like, hey, like I want more followers. I want more popularity. I want this. I want to be better. I want to be better than you. Listen, it's exhausting. All right, thank you for that. That was an illustration. Yeah, thank you, Cole. I want more money. I want to be prettier. I want to be funnier. If we live our life like that, it's exhausting. And it wears you out when you're constantly trying to do that. All right? It's miserable, but it's what we do. You guys know it's miserable to never have a thought bigger than yourself. It's miserable to never have a thought bigger than yourself. And you know, when I look at people who only think of themselves, how many of you guys know someone in your life and they only think of themselves? You guys don't need to like say any names, but I'm assuming all y'all know someone in your life who only thinks about themselves. Alright? Alright, that wasn't nice. Anyways, when I look at those people, sorry, I couldn't see Brady, the lights were in my eyes. When I see those people, they look miserable, alright? And if they're not miserable now, they're going to be miserable later. Trust me. Alright, because the Bible says those who are first will be last. And it also says in Matthew chapter 16, it says, what good will it be for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Now this is what Jacob couldn't understand. And listen, in this story you got Jacob and you got Esau, right? Esau's daddy's boy. Alright, the Bible even says he's daddy's boy, B-O-I. Alright, listen, I'm gonna paint out Esau to you guys, alright? This is like Hayden Sontag. Alright, you guys know that guy. Alright, listen, bench is 460, easy, yeah, very hairy, like Henry Cavill. The boy, he's a hunter, alright, he's nice with a gat. You know, he's slide canceling around a corner, popping deer in the head. Alright, this is like a manly man, alright? That's Esau. Alright, all the ladies say, hey, hey. Alright, that's Esau. Alright? Good night. Hey, then we got Jacob. Alright, Jacob, that boy got smooth skin. He's a mama's boy, not a daddy boy, he's a mama's boy. Listen, he binge watches Grey's Anatomy in the Bachelor in the kitchen. Yes. While he's cooking with his mama. Alright, that's Jacob. Alright? Listen, I'm not saying that one's better than the other. I'm not saying a manly man or a mama's boy who does what Jacob does is better. I'm just saying they're very different. Alright? They're very different. And Jacob, he wants the blessing from his father. Alright, Dave, quit messing with that. Jacob wants the blessing from his father, but because Esau was the firstborn, he was going to get the majority of the blessing, even though they were only born like 10 seconds apart from each other. In that culture, the firstborn got the majority of the blessing. So Jacob wanted Esau's blessing from Isaac, and here's where the problem begins. Jacob begins to live in the land of Ur. The land of Ur, like E-R. You guys are looking at me like I'm stupid, like you guys don't know what I'm talking about. Like, yeah, he's smart, but I'm smarter. Like, yeah, she's pretty, but I'm prettier. Or, yeah, he's pretty funny, but, you know, I'm funnier, right? You know, this is, now you guys know what I'm talking about. Now you guys know what I'm talking about. The land of E-R. And this is where Jacob lived. Jacob lived his life in the land of Ur. And side note, it's actually kind of crazy. Jacob's grandfather was born in a place called the Ur, like E-R. Literally, he was born in a place called the Ur of the Chaldeans. Now listen, we can't just sit here and think that this is just a Jacob thing, alright? Because I would be lying to you guys if I wasn't just thinking like 15 minutes ago, before I came up here, I'm like, man, like, I really hope I do a little better than last time. Alright? Listen, I got a hotel in the land of Ur. Alright? I'd be lying to you guys if I didn't think stuff like this in my head. Alright? You know, and the crazy thing is if you live in the land of Ur, there's always going to be someone who's than you. All right, there's always going to be someone who's smarter than you. There's always going to be someone who's prettier than you, or there's always going to be someone who's stronger than you. All right, you know, Tommy's smarter than me. Cole's better looking than me. Cody's way funnier than me. All right, there's always going to be someone than you. All right. So Jacob's living in this land of Ur. And he's like, you know, why did Esau have to be the firstborn? You know, why did he have to get the blessing? So he starts drama. Jacob starts some drama. All right? Y'all ever start drama?
No.
I did not. There's no way. I just heard someone say no. There's no way. Y'all sitting there like, I don't start drama. I stay out of drama. No. Shut up. You are the drama. Like, no. Listen, can we relate to Jacob right now? All y'all have started drama at some point in my life. Listen, I can relate, because in high school I like to be involved in the drama too. Alright, as long as it didn't revolve around me, you'd be like, yeah, she is stupid. Yeah, why'd she do that? Listen, we all like to start drama sometimes. I'm not saying it's right, but the reality is we can all relate to this. And listen, Jacob starts so much drama that he gets his mom involved. He gets mama involved, and she's on his side. He's a mama's boy, right? You see in verse 15 it says, Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son, Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. Why? Because they were hairy. Why? So that he could feel like Esau. Listen, this is an elaborate, detailed plan. And we see in verse 17 it says, Then she handed her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. He went to his father and said, My father. Yes, my son, he answered. Who is it? Oh, by the way, before we get to this part. So, Isaac, Jacob and Esau's dad, he's really old, all right? He's about to croak. He's on his deathbed. He's blind. He can't really see. He can still feel, though. So, that's the reason why they put the goat skin on his arm. Because remember, Esau, hairy like Henry Cavill. All right, the guy who plays Superman. So they put goat skin on baby bud, smooth skin Jacob, so he'd feel like Esau. So he goes up to Isaac, and he said, verse 18, he went to his father and said, My father. Yes, my son.
Yes, my son.
Isaac answered.
Who is it?
Verse 19, Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, your Lord. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing. Isaac asked his son,
How did you find it so quickly, my son?
The Lord your God gave me success, he replied. Oh, y'all see that? Y'all see that? Jacob gave God credit for his lie. Jacob gave God credit for his lie. You guys ever seen that before? You guys ever done this? The plot thickens. Listen, let me just tell you something. Just because something sounds spiritual doesn't mean that it's true. Just because something sounds spiritual doesn't mean it's true. Just because you see it on TikTok, alright, and it sounds spiritual, and it's got the song Oceans by Hillsong playing in the back, don't mean it's true. Alright? Then verse 21, it continues. It says, Then Isaac said to Jacob, Come near me so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not. Jacob went close to his father Isaac and touched him and said, The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy, like those of his brother Esau, so he proceeded to bless him. Listen, guys, you can get so good at lying that even the people closest to you won't even know. You guys can get so good at lying that even your own family won't even know if you're lying or not. The interesting thing is, how old do you guys think Jacob is at this point?
7.
Say something. How old do you think?
7.
7? 14, 16, 18?
27.
I'm about to blow your minds. He's 76. Jacob's 76 right here, and he's still on with his nonsense. Alright? Jacob is 76 here, and he's still finding himself in the drama. Alright, hey, everyone listen up. He's still trying to get involved in this drama. He's still trying to get what he wants. He's still trying to get ahead in his life. At 76, alright? You know, you'd think he'd be a teenager, but no. No, he's 76. And then this is what happens. So, Isaac blesses him because he thinks that he's Esau. Esau who's out hunting, right? Because he's a pagan. He's out hunting. He gets back. He finds out that Jacob got his blessing. And when you're hunting, what do you have with you? I don't know, probably a bow or a sword. He's like, listen, I'm going to get you. All right? So he says, I'm going to get you. Then Jacob runs off into the wilderness for not like a day, 2 days, not a week, a month, a year. He runs away for 21 years. 21 years. This old boy on the run from his brother. Alright? And I mean, I'm just trying to picture how long that is. 21 years. That's longer than pretty much everyone in this room has been alive. Alright, there's just a couple people in here who've been alive longer than that. That's how long this guy was running and hiding from his brother. And now listen, let me tell you something. The reason why I'm up here speaking, the reason why we're on this series right now is because of this. We need to get teenagers in this room and your friends and people across this country. We need to get teenagers to realize something. Stop hiding. Stop hiding. Because we don't need to be a Jacob at 76, and we don't need to be a Jacob at 16. So many people live their lives saying, I just gotta head out. I just gotta hide. I just gotta hide from this person. I just gotta hide from this reality. So many people live their lives hiding. And you know, something that I find super interesting in this passage is, isn't it crazy that you can get what you want and then not want what you got?
Yep.
Jacob got what he wanted, and then once he got it, he didn't want it anymore. See, God cannot bless who you pretend to be. God cannot bless who you pretend to be. And then we wonder why depression and anxiety rates are so high. And the reason why, you know, when we talked about last week, that suicide rates are skyrocketing at a rate we've never seen before. You want to know why? Because you can fool Isaac, but you can never fool yourself. You can fool the people around you, you can fool the people closest to you, but you can never fool yourself. So many teenagers are trying to fool themselves and they can't. And they're like, well, you know, I'm trying to be this way, or I'm going to try and do this. I'm going to try and make myself look like this. I'm going to try and take on this personality trait. And they can't. They can't fool themselves. They find themselves locked up and confused, and then they get anxiety and depression. And sometimes they think the only way out is out, and then they commit suicide. And I know that was like super dark and crazy spin, but listen, that's the reality. Because remember, we talked about last week, suicide numbers in the U.S. have gone up 25% in the last 20 years. That's the reality, guys. Listen, someone who's sitting next to you might be struggling with this. They might be struggling with who they are and they've been running. Maybe it's someone on your sports team. And listen, it's definitely people in your school. All right? There's definitely people in your school who struggle with this. And you know, we think everything's okay, but listen, the reality is we got Jacobs that are hiding. We got Jacobs that are hiding, who went for something and it didn't work. And as we're trying to figure out how to do life, we got to realize that there's a lot of, we got to think about those many me's. Not mini me's like Austin Powers. Dan, I know you watched the third one last night. Not mini me's, many me's. Many me's, alright? You guys know what I'm talking about? Many me's? Probably not. Sorry, I'll explain it. You know, you got the me that you know. You know, the me that I show to you guys, the me that you guys see me to be. And then there's the me me that I see. And to be honest, that me frustrates me a lot of times. Because that's the me that I see, and especially if you're super self-critical of yourself. And then there's the me that I want to be. There's the me that I hope to be, the me that I aspire to be. And how many of you guys know what I'm talking about now? There's different me's. Alright, listen, the me that I aspire to be, the me that I want to be, alright, he's awesome. You guys would love him. I call him Prospective Peyton. Alright? Prospective Peyton. And you know, Prospective Peyton, he works out 7 days a week. Alright, he's absolutely yoked. He can eat whatever he wants and he still puts on muscle. You know, he run for president and all y'all would vote for him. Alright. Listen, he's an awesome guy. That's Prospective Peyton. He never messes up. Now listen, Prospective Peyton is who I want to be, so Pretend Peyton is who I fake to be in the meantime. Now, don't look at me confused right now like you don't know what I'm talking about, because I know y'all can relate We all have these different costumes that we put on. We all have these different masks that we put on, and we put on Esau's clothes, and we put his hair on our arms, and we fake who we are. We see what other people do, so we learn how to walk the walk and talk the talk from people at our school and people that we're friends with, and we get those clothes to do those things, and we learn from other people, and we got to be careful about these many me's in our life. So we become somebody else just to realize that the blessing wasn't all that we thought it was going to be. What's good? What's good about the blessing of Isaac if you can't even stay in the house afterwards? What good is it? What good is the blessing of Isaac if you can't even stay in the house afterwards? Listen, there's young girls all over this room who dress a way that's not really who you are, but it gets you guys the attention that you guys want. That's reality. And listen, what good is that attention if it comes from someone that'll only give you that attention if you dress a certain way? And listen, and there's boys in this room, and you guys were born with a soft and tender heart, right? And God created you to be some sort of way, but you guys go to school, and there's these people at school, and they try and make you be like, no, you got to be hard, and you got to be callous, you got to be tough, and you got to not show emotion, and they're like, hey, if you act soft, we're gonna expose you, and we're gonna make you look like an idiot. You gotta try and act tough. Listen, what good is it to have popularity if your life sucks when you're at home? What good is it? Honestly. What good is the blessing of influence if you feel hopeless and empty when you're alone? What good is it if you got 2,000 followers on Instagram, but you go home and you feel lonely every night? What good is it? Honestly. What good is it, like we see in Matthew, if you gain the whole world, yet you lose your soul? We put on Esau's clothes, but what good is it? It doesn't make sense, but we do it all the time. You can fool Isaac. You will never fool yourself. God can't anoint your avatar. God can't anoint your avatar. He can't minister to your mask. He can't save your selfie. And He can't direct your duet. See that? It rhymes.
Wow.
He can't. So Jacob, he's like, I'm Esau. I'm Esau. Bless me. And he got the blessing that he thought he wanted, but he lost himself. And there's somebody in here today where you got the popularity, but you lost yourself. All you thought about in the last 2 years, you're like, man, I just want to be popular. I just want to be like this person. I just want to be like that person. Now you're sitting in here tonight, and you go home at night, and you're like, man, I don't even know who I've become. I don't like the person I became to be. You gained all the popularity, you lost yourself. You got the possessions, you lost yourself. What good is it? God can only bless who you really are, not who you pretend to be. If we could only realize the importance of what God put inside of us, if we could only realize how important it is that God created us in a very specific, in a very special way, but instead, we wake up every single morning and we're just discrediting ourselves, saying, I'm not good enough. I'm not as pretty as she is. I'm not as smart as he is. I don't have as many followers as that person. And honestly, I can still work on this. I still live in the land of Ur sometimes. Thinking things like, I wish I could do this, I wish I could do that. I see this person that I follow on Instagram is doing this. I wish I could do that. I wish I was as good as they were. What I realize is that we're wrestling with the wrong person. We wrestle with ourselves. We wrestle with our siblings or our friends. We got the wrong perspective. What I love about Jacob is that he began after hiding for 21 years. After hiding for 21 years. I can't even imagine that. He's just like, you know what? I'm done with it. I'm through that. I'm tired of running. I'm tired of hiding. I'm tired of pretending to be someone that I'm not. And he began to wrestle with God. He began to wrestle with God. And how many of you guys remember how old he was? 76, right? So let me do a little public school education. All right, this ain't Marquette. 76 plus 21 is... What's 76 plus 21?
97.
97. Listen. This old boy, Jacob, the heel grabber, he's 97. No 97. How many of you guys have a relative who's 97?
My grandma.
Yeah, can you imagine her having a wrestling match
My dad,
all
he
night
acts
long?
like he's 97.
Dude, that's stinking crazy. All right? But listen. All of Jacob's life, he had been grabbing for something, and then finally, something grabbed for him. Something grabbed for him. Let me tell you guys something. This is what happens when grace gets a hold of your life. This is what happens when grace gets a hold of your life. He flips everything upside down. So stop wrestling with the people that don't matter. Stop wrestling with the people at your school who don't see you for who you're supposed to be. Stop wrestling with maybe someone on a sports team. Stop wrestling with the people that don't matter and start wrestling with God. You know, and a lot of times the reason why we don't wrestle with God is because we're like, oh, God's mad at me. God's got it out for me. I mess up so much. God's got me in a chokehold. No, that's not the way God works. The reason why you wrestle with God is to understand who you really are. That's the reason why you wrestle with God. Not because He's mad at you. And then, guys, this is what happens to Jacob. It says, then the man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. This is Jesus talking. But Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. So he was holding on here in the midst of his hurting. He was holding on in the midst of his pain. And he's like, listen, I'm tired of getting Esau's blessing. I'm tired of hiding and pretending to be someone I'm not. I want my blessing. I want my blessing. And we live our lives too much saying, I want their blessing. Like, I want his blessing. Or I want her blessing. We live our lives so much, and God's like, no, like, yeah, they got their blessing. I've got a blessing for you. I got a blessing especially for you. And then we're like, no, that's not good enough. And we wonder why God's like, yo, homie. You know, when we're sitting here and we're raising our hands in worship and we're crying, and you're like, I just want my blessing. God's like, I've got a blessing for you. A blessing that's especially for you. Listen, Jacob had to realize that he wanted it bad enough. It took all these years in his life, he had to realize that he wanted it bad enough. And I just want to know, do you guys want it bad enough? Do you guys want your blessing? Do you guys want what? Do you guys want to know how God created you and who you really are bad enough? Because the reality is you can get anything if you want it bad enough. But we want the wrong things bad enough. And listen, I can tell you the answer, whether you want it bad enough or not. I know because I was there. I wanted the popularity. I wanted the influence more. I wanted the pleasure more. When I was in high school especially, I can relate to this. And what I'm telling you is that you do that, you'll live a life of Jacob. You'll live a life hiding. And I'm just up here right now to tell you guys, just stop hiding. Stop hiding. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. It's pointless. It doesn't matter. So Jacob, we can see that he was just tired of it. He was tired of posing. And he was tired of pretending. And I'm going to invite Tanner and Macy back up here. I know Macy's not down here right now, but she'll be back. I just want to know, can you guys relate to Jacob right now? Are you tired of posing? Are you tired of pretending? When you go home at night, and it's the me that you see. It's not the me that where you put on a mask and you go to school, or you go to youth at night and pretend you got everything figured out. When you go home at night and you look at yourself, do you ever think, man, I don't know who I'm looking at right now. I don't know how I got this way. I don't know why I'm like this. Are you tired of hiding, or are you tired of posing and pretending? Listen, I'm gonna end with this. We see in verse 27, it says, the man asked him, what is your name? Jacob, he answered. Now look just a few verses ahead of this, and the same question was asked to Jacob by his father Isaac. The same question, what's your name? Remember the drama? Remember when Isaac asked him, what did Jacob say? He said, I'm Esau. Right? He didn't say I'm Jacob, he said I'm Esau. The same question after 21 years. But Jacob we can see, I mean, he figured out something, and the only thing that we can attest to this is, I guess that, it did work. It did work. So he comes back and he wrestles with God. And God asks him the same question. This time he says, I'm Jacob. I'm Jacob. And in verse 28 it says, then the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome. So at 97 years old, Jacob figured it out. And man, I've been praying for you guys when I was preparing this, that it doesn't take you guys that long. That it doesn't take you guys that long to figure out who you are and who God created you to be. Maybe, what about 12? Maybe not 97, what about 12? Or what about 15 or 18? What about now? What about right now? You guys can make things right with God right now. You guys can figure out who God sees you to be right now. In your struggle, God shows you who you really are. And I'm not trying to say that in your successes you can't find that either, but I'm just saying that in Jacob's life, it wasn't until he wrestled with God before he realized this is who I am. And then God gives Jacob a new name, Israel. You guys are probably like, what the heck, what does that mean? The name Israel means triumphant with God. So his name's not heel grabber anymore, his name is triumphant with God. And what's crazy about this is that Jacob, for the rest of his life, for Israel, he doesn't just get called Israel. He actually gets called both names. He gets called both Jacob and Israel. And I remember I was reading this and I was like, dude, what in the world? Why would he be called both Jacob and Israel? His name's not Israel. Why would he still be called Jacob at times? And I realized that, just because you have a new name doesn't mean that you're not going to have the same struggles. Just because you have a new name doesn't mean you're not going to have the same struggles. Or just because you know God, you've got a relationship with God, doesn't mean that you're going to know yourself completely. It's a process. It's conflicting, but life's all about conflicting changes. When God calls you something, but you're not that yet. When God says, I called you to do this, or I want you to do this, or you're going to do this, and you're like, I can't see that. I'm not even close to that right now. That's the way I felt. When God called me to be a youth pastor, I was so far from wanting to be a youth pastor, or even being on that track. I think I've told you guys before, I had my whole life set out. I wanted to go join the special forces, and I wanted to kill people. That's literally what I wanted to do. And God said, he's like, I want you to be a youth pastor. And I'm like, heck no. What? I remember I went back to my school and I told people, yeah, I'm going to be a youth pastor now. And people laughed at me. They're like, you, youth pastor? I got laughed at all the time senior high school. Guys, it's not easy. It's tough when God calls you something, but you're not that yet. It's tough when God calls you Israel, but you still feel like a Jacob sometimes. I'm going to invite you guys to stand up tonight. I just want to let you guys know that God's comfortable in the conflict, and He's not intimidated by your inadequacies. And tonight, I really think that when it comes down to it, we got a lack of trust in the Holy Spirit. Things get blurry sometimes, and we're like, man, I don't know if that's God talking, or if that's just myself. I don't know if that's something that I heard from my friends, or if that's God. But listen, you gotta. I'm gonna encourage you guys to take the next few moments and just really press into God, into what He's speaking to you and how He sees you. I'm gonna encourage you guys to take a new step forward. Maybe you're like, how do I do that? How do I do that? You come back, you stop hiding, and you wrestle with God. Some of you guys are like, what the heck? What do you mean, wrestle with God? Listen, wrestling with God's not afraid of you. You don't need to be like, oh, I'm going to hurt God's feelings. Wrestling with God, you can ask Him the tough questions. God, I don't know why I struggle with this. God, I don't know why I'm going through this right now. Just help me out here. You can ask God those tough questions. Listen, you're not going to hurt God. You're not Conor McGregor. But, I mean, he can handle him too. Like, you guys, I'm just going to encourage you guys to wrestle with God. With whatever it is that you're going through tonight. Some of you guys need to come back and you've been hiding for too long, and maybe you're sitting there and you're like, yeah, well, at least it's not 21 years. I've only been running with God since I got into high school. That's like a year and a half. Okay, land of Ur. Stop hiding. Stop hiding. Stop pretending to be someone that you're not. Step into who God's called you to be. Right now is the time to trust God. So hold your hands out right now, and we're going to pray and go back into a time of worship.